What's up, everybody? This is the Daily Fantasy NFL. I just
He
made,
almost said Daily Fantasy WNBA show again.
I didn't. I almost said MLB, but I did. I did not. But I just made up that jingle by myself. It'd be really cool if y'all could just like join in. 1, 2, 3. Daily Fantasy.
Let's go Royals.
Really?
Wow. All
You
right.
can't talk baseball on this show when I'm on it after last night.
There will be no baseball talk.
Or for the last 100 and something years.
Yes.
On it.
Yes, seriously. On today's show, we have Davis Maddox sporting his J-Matt jersey. We have... Is that your Larry Fitzgerald
It's Larry
jersey?
Fitzgerald.
Yeah, man.
JJ Zachariason with number
That jersey
5.
is aging better than Fitz.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Dude, it's sweet.
Dude, he was like really good when he was at Pittsburgh.
Heck yeah. Hail to Pitt.
Yep. Now...
Did you know he was a Vikings ball boy?
I did, yeah.
Did you know that?
Wasn't his
It-
dad...
It is the single fact that motivated him to become an NFL player. It had nothing to do with his talent or any of his work.
Yeah,
it was that experience as a
strictly
ball player.
today is strictly Narrative Street.
I thought
there
it was
will be
his...
no statistics on today's show.
I thought it was like just the education that he got from his
Yeah,
father.
absolutely.
You know what's really frustrating is that he does like the University of Phoenix stuff now whenever he went to the university that I did, and then like now he's doing this online promotion or online school promotion. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with Pitt, dude?
JJ.
What is wrong with Pitt?
JJ.
What?
That is super frustrating.
You know what, Kitchen? I've had a really rough 24 hours. Really rough. So,
Okay, I'm a Vandy fan and I'm a Cubs fan, so pardon me if I like don't, cry for you. Anyways, can we get on to the
Let's do
Daily
it.
Fantasy NFL show?
Yes,
Do it.
yes we can.
That's going to be a jingle. Whether you guys like it or not, that will be a jingle.
It probably most definitely won't, but we should definitely start today's show with a little bit of analysis from the game tonight because there are some pretty popular.
Wait. I didn't introduce Drew Dinkmeyer and his is that like a women's aerobics jersey you got going on?
It's
Dry
no,
fit,
it's a spin class shirt.
Dry fit. Dry fit. I live in dry fit.
You wearing a sports bra underneath?
You know he's got spandex shorts on. You know it.
I have tennis shorts on. I do. I live in tennis shorts and dry fit.
I do
Sorry.
too.
And he eats like a parakeet, much like the bird he looks like. So how many of you turned in just to find out which animal JJ looks like?
Oh yeah, you haven't said it yet.
Mongoose.
How long have you been waiting to say that?
I mean, a couple days. You look like a Saharan desert mongoose.
Oh man. Late round mongoose for the win.
Late round mongoose.
They call me the late round mongoose.
They're a good arbitrage play on American prairie dogs, in my opinion.
Yeah. IMO?
Yeah, IMO. All right, do I have permission to start talking about football now, David, or not?
Yeah, I think you should be talking about your last week with like celebrity athletes. Speaking of
Yeah.
IMO, the fact that Brendan McCarthy said TBH was like telling. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, here is like my thought.
He reads my tweets.
Yeah, no, of course he does. Like Davis, we give you a lot of crap, but you start a lot of trends. Like you are a trend setter. And there's
Well,
like
obviously.
there is no doubting that. Some of those trends are really stupid, but they still catch on, and we
No,
have
they're mostly stupid. I
Right.
would say 97% of the time they're stupid.
So like the TBH, the IMHO, the IMNHSO, NHS.
Oh, in my not so humble opinion,
Yeah, so-
that's the GOAT.
So like that sort of stuff. Like he said TBH. So here's my thought. Like, what if like you heard like an interview up like and Jeter was like, well, TBH, and like the whole clubhouse.
0% chance Brandon McCarthy and Derek Jeter talk.
Okay, well, probably so. Oh,
Like I would say maybe even less than 0.
okay, well, what about like Kuroda?
I don't think any of the ground ball pitchers talk to Jeter.
Yeah. Oh, sabermetric shot at Derek Jeter's prehistoric UZR. I love it. I love it. I mean, I didn't invent TBH, right? You know that's like been a thing.
Right, but like you take those things and like you're really consistent with it to where we want to take your thing.
Yeah, well, the big thing going on right now is that Travis Kelce and I are currently becoming best friends.
I call
is the main thing.
I call him Trav because he called my work comedy gold.
Yeah, pure comedy actually.
Pure comedy.
I'm gonna print that tweet out and frame it. All right.
Has there been any more interaction?
No, I followed him though, so I'm just waiting for that follow back. Although I've been going and reading his tweets, dude, he is hilarious. He just responds to all the hot girls that tweeted him with emojis. Travis Kelce is GOAT.
He loves the emojis. I'm gonna make.
If you're a professional athlete, that's
what Twitter's for.
That's a great way not to get in trouble tweeting. Like nobody's gonna be like, "Hey, that guy tweeted a winky face." Like, take that down.
True.
Yeah.
All emoji all the time.
Yeah. I mean, do you guys remember when Ray Allen tweeted out like he meant to DM this girl like legitimately just as sex and he just regular tweeted it out?
Yeah, and if it was an emoji, no one would have cared.
No one. Yeah, if it was just like 3 purple avocados, like people would just be like, "Well, okay."
Or laying the pipe. That could just be like a plumber tweet, laying the pipe. Remember?
Yeah,
with
laying
JR?
the pipe. JR, GOAT.
Yeah.
I mean, JR's DMs leaks and he doesn't even care. He makes jokes about it.
Oh man, good stuff. But can we talk about some actual football?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna give the floor to Drew Dinkmeyer to explain why Eddie Lacy is not a good cash game option if you're playing games that start on Thursday.
Tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the dude, I tweeted this earlier, he runs like dial-up internet. Like that first, that's like him hitting the first defensive lineman that he sees, and then there's like a flat line, that's like him hitting the ground, and then eventually you're connected, which is the next play that Aaron Rodgers throws to Jordy Nelson. So it's like perfect dial-up internet, and you don't want to play dial-up internet in your cash game lineups.
Yeah. How about this? How about we have people tweet us their best hashtag Eddie Lacy runs like, and the winner gets Fantasy Insiders t-shirt, David.
Okay, I'm not sure anyone can beat the dial-up internet though.
That's a good.
Oh, you can do it.
It's a really good one. My favorite one that I had was Eddie Lacy runs like he wears orthopedic shoes.
That one's good. Those are my favorite running backs though, dude.
Oh yeah, no.
Monty
Well, I mean,
Ball.
Fred Jackson actually does have special orthopedic shoes that he needs to play NFL football.
Yeah.
And he also probably calls CJ Spiller son. And when they're in the locker room, he probably puts his arm around his shoulder and gives him really fatherly. Like Fred Jackson is definitely CJ Spiller's financial advisor. Like 0% chance that he's not, right?
Apostle Fred.
It's possible.
Yeah, there you go.
Who was
Fred.
Who was it? Who was the old guy that JJ was on last week, or was it the week before?
I remember one of these weeks he talked up Antonio Gates.
Oh yeah, that was like
Also,
when he had 3 catches.
No, don't downplay that. Maybe the game where he had 3 touchdowns.
That was not. We would have never heard
No,
the end of it.
I didn't play him against the Seahawks. I did not play him against the Seahawks. I had Jared Cook.
Oh, it was Jared Cook. That's who it was.
He had the 7 for 75 game that week.
Yeah.
Almost scored.
It was Jared Cook.
Can we get a Jordy Nelson hot take? I like him tonight.
You have to.
Yeah, his Vegas line just I guess I just looked on Bovada, and I've said numerous times today, like Bovada's like kind of silly with their lines, but it's 6.5 catches, and 92.5 yards. I don't know. What do you think about that, Drew?
He's the number 1 wide receiver in our rankings. I wrote our content this week at Roto Experts, and I've got him number 1. He's got a market share of 39%, and like the next highest in the league is like 32%. It's insane. He's averaging over 12 targets a game, almost 3 red zone targets a game. They can't move the ball on the ground. I mean, maybe things change if they give the ball to James Starks, but he's going to get force-fed opportunities both in and outside the red zone, and he's got the best quarterback in football throwing him the ball. So.
Yeah. What about you, JJ? Are you on board? I know you're gonna. I bet you are a little bit more hesitant just because of the touchdown scoring environment of Thursday night football.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, I'm just afraid of the game tonight. I love Jordy. My fear is just that this game has so many weird matchups going on that, a lot of different things are possible. And while if you run out a lineup that has Jordy in it, there's that possibility that that you're playing against someone that has a guy like McKinnon or something who's not necessarily like an obvious play just because we don't know what his volume is going to be, but then McKinnon goes off. Like there are a lot of those kind of players in tonight's game, which kind of turns me off with the game. But I think, I mean, obviously Jordy's a really, really solid play, but in general, it kind of has the same vibe of last week with regards to, obviously, the Packers' defense looks great as a defensive play, but Washington looked great last week. There are things like, there's just a lot of that going on, which is just kind of scaring me. I know that sounds kind of
Jerick McKinnon could like break the single game rushing yard record tonight.
Yeah, like Green Bay's
That's in play.
Green Bay's, I know that people look at fantasy points against and they see Atlanta's rush defense is terrible, but Green Bay's defense is actually worse at stopping the run this year. And that's scary because you don't know how other DFSers are going to be handling that Minnesota running game situation, and there's a lot of different outcomes that could come from it. And Thursday night games, running backs do perform better than they do in other games just because it's a really, it's a short week and they're going to be pounding the rock. So, Jordy's an obvious play. It's just a scary game in general.
Yeah. All right, everyone, we are officially running the tweet us with your best Eddie Lacy runs like tweet. So tweet the corporate account, the @InsidersDFS account with your best Eddie Lacy runs like. I'll retweet them. It'll be a fun little game. We'll read some of them on air. Drew, what do you think about using McKinnon in like a GPP tonight on FanDuel or DraftKings?
I think it's fine. I'd rather do it on FanDuel than I would on DraftKings, just because the pricing on DraftKings is so soft that I think there's big opportunity costs there. And I think that the other challenge to it is the fact that he's likely to be inflated on his ownership percentage in a tournament anyway, just because it's a Thursday night game.
Yeah, you're
right. So I'm less interested in doing it. I'd rather do it on FanDuel, though. The other part is I think he'll be more active in just straight line runs as opposed to kind of the passing game where Asiata seems to be on the field for the majority of kind of passing down. So I think the PPR bonus actually benefits Asiata more than it does McKinnon, which is weird because usually you think of the goal line score going that way, but that's kind of the way I see it.
Whoever just tweeted at me with the late round Mongoose account, GOAT. You are GOAT. There's officially a late round Mongoose account. You're awesome out there. Okay, let's transition. Let's start talking about the Millionaire Maker. We're obviously all going to be throwing some teams in there. I think there are 3 clear running backs that you're sort of constructing the rest of your lineups around. They'd be DeMarco Murray, Le'Veon Bell, and Rashad Jennings. I think one of the best things about Le'Veon is that last week everyone was talking about how super disappointing he was. 16 DraftKings points.
Yeah.
Like dude is he's awesome. What do you think about him this week, Drew? Are you on board with Le'Veon?
Yeah, those 3 guys are the guys that I'm targeting most heavily for cash games. I think there's actually a really good number of tournament plays to mix up from those 3 guys at the running back position. But as you said, Bell's got a really high floor because he is heavily involved in the passing game. And the Jaguars allow the most plays per game in the league because they can't get off the field defensively. So hopefully Pittsburgh is a little bit more run aware in the red zone than they were last week. I think they only ran 1 running play in the red zone of like their 10 red zone opportunities that I charted. So that's a really fluke kind of opportunity split between pass run for any team in the NFL. So I think Bell has a really good shot at scoring a touchdown.
Well, when you have red zone weapons like Marcus Wheaton and Antonio Brown, I don't know why you would ever not throw them the ball.
And you gotta throw Heath Miller into traffic at least 2 or 3 times.
At least 2 times a game.
He's gotta die 3 times a game.
Yeah. I will say this though. Take out life insurance policies on your loved ones because I am writing up Antonio Brown this week.
Ooh.
It's a real thing. Like I think that. And so what that actually means is that this is going to be the first week that Antonio Brown breaks his string of going 5 catches for 50 yards. Like this is the week that it happens.
There's no way that like Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown don't have like at least a decent game. There's absolutely no way. I don't know if you saw them against San Diego last week, but like San Diego receivers could do literally whatever they want against that secondary.
Donald did awesome. He was.
I mean, awesome. Like the thing that's awesome about Le'Veon, the thing that's awesome about Le'Veon and the Steelers is that their defense is so bad that that they're just going to continually be trying to score. They're not going to be running clock very often,
especially after last week. I mean, good lord,
yeah.
Dude, they can't make that same mistake 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
right.
Oh, they will though, because it's the Steelers.
No, it's terrible. It's the worst. It's awful. They have a bottom 5 defense. They have a bottom 5 secondary, and they have injuries to Ike, Shazier, and Jarvis Jones. Like the Jags offense can actually, like, I think that they'll be able to move the ball. I think the over under on this was like 47 or something, and I would not be surprised if it went over at all.
The Bortles is good. He's gonna do like young dumb quarterback stuff. Like he's gonna throw awful Andrew Luck-esque interceptions, but like he's also gonna make some plays that make you go like whoa, because he is unlike sort of the Christian Ponders and the Ryan Tannehills. It's like it was never a question of like arm talent with him. Like he can both process the game and he can make like those sick throws that like Christian Ponder just never could.
The one thing that's really important in this game too is that the Steelers don't have any pass rush, and that's what killed the Jaguars this year. So I think that he will have time in the pocket, which is really important as well.
Yeah. Do you want to cape up for Marcus Wheaton here, or are we good? Are we good with that?
I'm done with Wheaton, dude.
Done with Wheaton. Okay.
I mean, I was never really I've never really been on Wheaton.
I was going back to go and try and find my tweet. I tweeted it out before the preseason that like by like week 4, Marcus Wheaton was going to be on the most dropped list by the time casual owners got around to it.
Yeah.
But I like couldn't find the tweet, so because I can't remember the exact wording and I tweet too much. But
the number two wideout in Haley's offense is always one of the least efficient receivers in the league. It's just how it goes.
Oh, I love Draft Cheat coming in here caping up for his boy Christian Ponder. So good. Okay. So DeMarco Murray is, I think every week you start out trying to decide, like, that's sort of like your guy. He has more touches than anyone else in the NFL. He has 99 carries. He's 4th on the team, or tied for 3rd on the team in pass targets with Terrence Williams. I have been begging the Dallas Cowboys to run the ball for the last 4 seasons, and now that the defense is so bad that they have no chance of winning a Super Bowl, they're finally doing it, which is probably one of the most frustrating things of my young life. But I think all of the DeMarco Murrays is the way to go in both cash games and GPPs. Like if you gave me DeMarco Murray or the field for number 1 fantasy scoring running back this week, I still think I might take DeMarco. Is that too much? Is that too absolute, Drew?
You're saying you take DeMarco as the number 1 running back versus the field?
Like if I got some decent odds on it, yeah. Obviously, I'm not even money. I'm not an idiot.
I mean, that you could say that about anything if you get decent odds on it. But yeah, I mean, that would probably be too absolute. But yeah, the workload's incredible. 24.75 carries a week with a standard deviation of less than 3. That's just absurd. Just very, very consistent opportunity. And the matchup's great. Houston's run defense has sucked. I cannot believe how Buffalo chose to attack them.
I can't believe that Houston is as bad. They're 29th in adjusted DVOA on Football Outsiders against the run. That's crazy bad for a defense that has J.J. Watt.
And somehow they gave E.J. Manuel 2/3 of the opportunities last week. The play calling was like 2/3 pass to 1/3 run. In a game that was close the whole game. I have no idea what Buffalo was doing that week. And now Kyle Orton's in our lives.
Kyle Orton is in Mike Leone's life to make him happy, to make things better.
But yeah, I think DeMarco is the clear-cut running back 1. I think Le'Veon's running back 2, and then I think it's a little bit shakier after that. You can make a case for a handful of guys, but I think those 2 are the top 2 guys. And on DraftKings, the pricing is more friendly to those 2 guys than it is anywhere else in the industry. So if you're building tournament lineups, I don't think you need to get cute and fade kind of the top running back plays. And most of the lineups I'm making, I'm using 1 or 2 of them.
Make a case for a 3rd guy.
The guy that I have 3rd in our rankings this week, let me check because I'm not sure if I put him that high. Okay, I put Forte at 3, and it's just a floor thing. Like I think McCoy has the highest ceiling of any of the other running backs, but I think Forte's floor is just so unbelievably safe. And his use in both the passing game and the running game means he's never kind of out of it. So I have him as 3rd, and then I actually have Jennings as 4th on our running back ranking list.
All right, JJ, you are Mr. Floor himself. So are you on board with the Forte play?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a play every week. The Panthers defense has been terrible this year, especially that secondary. Holy crap! Like they let up like five wide receiver touchdowns. I think the past 2 weeks against Baltimore and Pittsburgh. But my number three, I would put Jennings third this week. Atlanta's given up 44 PPR points to opposing team running backs in 3 of their 4 games this year. So I mean that's crazy bad. They're just terrible against the run. And then I think what's interesting is in two of those games against Minnesota, against Minnesota and against Cincinnati, you saw teams. You saw Jerick McKinnon and Jeremy Hill both have fantasy relevant days, so it could be really interesting to see how Andre Williams performs this week as a deeper play. Obviously, you wouldn't. Jennings is the guy. He's getting all the volume. He's been really efficient, really effective in that offense, and that offense is performing really well. I think a lot of the problem with the Giants' offense, and I mentioned this on Living the Stream too, is that they were so bad in 2013, and then week 1 we saw them perform just as dreadful. But it was against the Lions, and now the Lions are a top 5 unit in the league. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But not only that, but they're learning that McAdoo offense, and everything's just kind of clicking. So I really do like Jennings this week a lot.
I love the Lions defense on FanDuel this week against Kyle Orton and the Bills, because Orton doesn't suck, but you know what Orton has? Orton has DGAF. He'll throw those Cutler across the body, across the field interceptions that are just great, and the Lions are super. I love that defense.
Yeah, it's impossible to hate them this week.
Yeah, I think running back though, there's I don't know. What do you guys think about Kerry Robinson? That's not my guy. He just doesn't catch passes, dude.
He did catch 2 last week.
Yeah, he did, which I think was his only career reception.
I mean, if you're using him in a cash game, you're counting on 1 touchdown. If you're using him in a tournament, you're counting on 2 touchdowns. There's no other way he pays off his value.
Mm-hmm. I agree there.
Yeah, does my video suck? Is that what everyone in chat is talking about right now?
Yeah, you're pretty pixelated, bro.
Well, I don't know. It's not my fault. My roommates are probably watching Netflix or something. I gotta call and yell at the cable company, man. This is unacceptable. Paying an arm and a leg for this service. Does that mean I'm getting old when I say things like this service is unacceptable? Does that mean I'm turning into an old white guy?
Yeah. I guess.
Rage. All right, well, let's do wide receivers. I think that, unlike running back, I actually think that there are a million different ways you can go.
Can I give one more tournament, or actually 2 more tournament running backs?
Yes.
Reggie Bush, Ahmad Bradshaw.
I like that. Can I give an interesting one too that no one's going to be on? Is Fred Jackson this week?
Oh my god, I'm shocked. Oh my god, I'm shocked.
No, I mean that. No, I mean this seriously. The fact that obviously they're not going to run the ball on Detroit. They're not going to be able to. But Fred Jackson gets all of his work when they're down, all of it. I think that he only has 2 of his 19 receptions when they're actually tied or ahead. So when they're trailing, he has 17 of his catches this year. Full point PPR, he could catch 8 passes this week pretty easily. So just throwing that one out there too. I know that I love Fred Jackson, but
Gindy said in chat, no one's going to be on Ben Tate. I think that's actually a really good under the radar play. People are going, he's going to split work 3 ways. Well, Terrence West is no longer a thing. Tennessee is super terrible, and Ben Tate's pretty good. I don't know, he could totally do some things, get some touchdowns, catch some passes. Crowell can't do those things. Crowell is a D3 rookie. He can't pass block. That's not a thing. So, I don't know. I really like Tate.
What about Justin Forsett, too? He's kind of interesting as well this week.
What about my dude Bishop Sankey in a Millionaire Maker entry?
Sankey's interesting, too.
Yeah, I really like Sankey. What do you feel about that, Drew? What about his footwork, though? What does his footwork look like?
I like Twinkle Toes the best of that group. And then Tate, I have no clarity on that situation, so it frustrates me a little bit, and I got burned week 1 with him, so there's a little of that bias in my head. And I don't know I never know how healthy that guy is. So, yes, those are all the things that are going to be pushing people away from him in a tournament. My concern, the bigger part of the concern for me is just the red zone carries get split every week. So does he have 2 touchdown upside? And his cost requires kind of 2 touchdown upside to pay off a tournament, and I don't know. I don't how many touchdowns is Cleveland's offense going to put up this week?
Bro, they have Andrew Hawkins. They can put up infinity points. Isn't it going to be something when Andrew Hawkins has the first 100-catch season in the NFL with 0 touchdowns? Like that's going to happen.
If he scores this week, he could win someone $1 million.
What is he? What is he cost on DraftKings?
He's $3,500.
Yeah, he's nothing.
If he scores his 5th career touchdown in his 39th game, he could win someone $1 million.
He's getting all the volume, man. He's averaging over. It's pretty crazy.
I think Draft Cheat, he might be trolling, but he just said 5 Dimes has Eddie Lacy's long run of. Okay, never mind. He's trolling.
There's no way.
There's no way. I was about to be like, oh my god, bet your mortgage on the under. Dude, Eddie Lacy, like.
Bet your mortgage on the under of the line 4.5.
Yes. Here's the thing. You know Lacy is going 35 carries, 83 yards, 3 touchdowns tonight. Like know, like that is.
My mentions are just gonna.
Yeah, and it's just gonna be awesome. This dude who was talking to me about Twitter today was like, "Yeah, you totally wouldn't be hating on Eddie Lacy if he got that second touchdown." And I was like, he would have had 2 more points than Le'Veon Bell on DraftKings if he would have gotten that extra touchdown. Like he's terrible, dude. Whatever. Let's do wide receiver though. I don't know. Like, who's your favorite guy? I don't have a favorite guy this week.
Or me?
Either one of you.
I mean, there's so many values on DraftKings. Obviously, this week you have like DeAndre, you have Cooks, you got Kelvin's price is pretty ridiculous as well. I mean, there's a lot. I really like if you want to pay up a little bit, just like if you're on DraftKings, it's kind of tough to really pay up. I like Alshon a lot against the Panthers. I think he could be pretty solid this week. Like I said, they've allowed a lot of wide receiver touchdowns the past couple of weeks. B. Marsh is still kind of in that decoy role, which is kind of working for Alshon. So I do like him this week. But like I said, in general, it's kind of there's just so many guys in the middle there, like a Cooks or a Kelvin, that you don't necessarily need to pay up. Outside of obviously like a Jordy, like we talked tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting boring for everyone who reads my stuff or listens to the show, but like Brandon Cooks is just a good play every week while he's priced like this.
Oh, this week isn't. I mean, the matchup. What's crazy is that I think that we're turned off by the Saints right now because of the way they performed last week. But like, they have an ideal matchup this week. They're playing the worst secondary in the league at home, and Cooks is priced pretty favorably. So it's a good times with Brandon Cooks.
Yeah. Meanwhile, late round Mongoose is picking up some steam on Twitter. Just so you know, JJ.
This is the worst, Davis. Oh my god, that photo.
Yeah, it's a real thing. So let's talk about this real quick. I totally think that there's tons of value in Vegas player props. But I also think you need to be careful the site that you get them from, because someone just listed in chat that Lacy has the same odds as Jordy for a TD. I actually think that's probably true because they do give him goal line touches a lot, but I don't know, that doesn't make him a good daily fantasy play. Like, look at his yardage props. His yardage props are not good.
Last week, and it wasn't a valuable week, and he scored last week.
Yeah,
like he had 3 more fantasy points than Donald Brown last week on DraftKings.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and so everyone who was tilting at Donald Brown for being so terrible, anyways.
He was terrible, though.
Yeah, he was terrible. We need to stop talking about this because this is not the Eddie Lacy show.
You wanted to talk about odds.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I don't know, because I'm new to using player props. Like last year when I played, I used lines, but I didn't really look at player props that close. That's something that's new to me this year. In terms of wide receiver, I think... And this is going to be a weekly thing for me, just based on this sort of the wide receiver environment with Calvin being banged up and not having any idea what's going on with Demaryius Thomas in that offense. But Julio Jones is a guy that I'm working into a lot of lineups this week. I just feel like the matchup against who are they playing? New York? Yeah, I just feel like And Drew and I talked about this during basketball season, but sometimes superstar players tend to have better games against good teams because their skills are needed more because other players aren't as available to help the offense. And I think Julio falls under that category pretty easily. What do you think about that, Drew?
I understand it, and I think for a tournament play, I think it makes a lot of sense because I think a lot of people deem that matchup with Rogers Cromartie and Amukamura as not a favorable matchup on paper. So I think he'll be lower owned. In cash games, I have a hard time paying extra for Julio over if you're playing Thursday night slates over Jordy, if you're playing some weekend slates over Demarius. And maybe I'm just still biased towards kind of the preseason and off-season rankings that I had around wide receiver, but I just would rather take the cost savings of those guys. I don't mind Julio as a play; it doesn't bother me at all. But I'll probably more likely use him in tournaments than I would in cash games.
Yeah, and I'm sort of filtering everything through a tournament lens because I do think cash game plays are it's kind of set up this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, Julio is always going to be one of my favorite tournament plays because he's one of the few guys. I would say him, Demarius, Jordy, Antonio Brown, Calvin Johnson. Those are the guys who can post 10 catches, 234 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's kind of a short list of guys, and he's on that list.
He also has throughout his career, and I pointed this out to you 2 weeks ago, Davis, but he has really big home road splits with Roddy in terms of touchdown production. Roddy seems to score like 60 to 70% of his touchdowns at home, and Julio is the exact opposite on the road. So I don't know if that's like a dome thing, that Roddy's just more efficient in domes for some reason. Maybe you're more likely to go down the field kind of in non-dome situations. I have no idea, but the splits have been there for 2 or 3 years now, and so that's another thing kind of in Julio's favor this week. The other part is Roddy just got a ton of targets last week, and I think that'll even out a little bit, and I think that'll funnel people away from Julio a little bit just because Roddy had so much emphasis last week. So I think that's likely to result in him being lower owned again this week.
Yeah. So do you guys want to talk about the Green Bay defense now that Ponder is officially starting this game? Like, do either one of you guys want to I actually am asking you as a player because I don't know what I want to do.
I hadn't looked at their games. I gotta pull up their price.
They are 2,100 on DraftKings.
Whew. Yeah, I mean that sounds pretty good.
I'd play that in Thursday conference.
I could still the thing is that the Vikings have run the ball really effectively through the first quarter of the season, and Green Bay is so bad at stopping the run that it does scare me a little bit. But that price point is ridiculous.
Matt Asiata, 28.5 total touches, over under.
Whew, probably under.
Definitely under. 28.5. That's a huge number.
Yeah, I'd say under there. They're still going to involve McKinnon too.
I mean, before last week, their totals, I have it here. Their carries week to week was here it is, 28, 19, 22, and then 44 last week.
Yeah, but I'm also assuming that they're going to be down 2 touchdowns or more for most of this game. And I love McKinnon as a player, but he can't pass block yet. And Asiata is they've shown every time Asiata's played that they trust him getting targets in the pass game and
still high.
I would not. It's pretty high, which is but I obviously with Ponder starting, it's a different game script.
So if I said 22.5, you'd say over confidently, you feel.
Yes, yeah, I would say over.
Interesting.
I feel like that's a better point where you I could see a little over that, but I feel like that's more realistic.
Well, you know me, I had to go as hyperbolic as possible.
Yeah, I know. It's Davis Maddock over on.
They're 4,800 on FanDuel. The Packers defense. I just don't feel the need to
Lions
play
defense.
Yeah, Lions defense is right there. I'd rather just play Detroit.
Yeah, but I definitely I'm making some teams on DraftKings. Late round mongoose is a thing on the chat page right now. If you want to check that out, JJ. It's just very real. Let's talk a little Kelvin Benjamin. Cam Newton is not Cam Newton this year. You know, he talked to the media last week about how he kind of felt that the team misled him with the direction of his ankle surgery. He doesn't still feel right physically. But when Derek Anderson is in the game, he has eyes for one guy. So if they get blown out, you don't have to be worried about it. But he's 4,800 on DraftKings. I just kind of feel like that is a lock and loaded play for me. Are you on board with that, JJ?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's one of the highest volume receivers too in the league. It's not like this is some sort of like weird fluky thing. I mean, he is their guy in that offense. There's no doubt that he's a good value this week. Definitely on DraftKings.
Yeah. Drew, would you go with Cooks or with Benjamin?
Benjamin. I feel much better about Benjamin. Just the market share of targets is there. The other thing that's been frustrating about Cooks is they are not doing anything like outside of 8 yards past the line of scrimmage with him. And against Tampa's defense, which Lovie Smith's defense is designed not to allow you to take shots down the field, it's good for Cooks in the sense that he's probably going to have a more secure floor in terms of the catches, but it does take off some of that touchdown upside because in the red zone, it's most likely going to be Graham and Colston in the running game and less likely to be Cooks just because of their size. So it does take a little bit of the touchdown potential away. And Benjamin, the market share is like 23% or greater every week. He's playing, like you said, he's playing in every situation. They get down way big, he's still getting targets. So I think he's a great play. And they're not going to they're going to abandon the running game. That the Reeves, Fozzie Whitaker, Stewart trio, they're not going to stick to that. Carolina just never sticks to the running game, so he's going to get looks, and he's going to have a huge size advantage over the Bears corners.
I mean, I did hear that over the offseason, though, that Darrelle Revis was asking for some technique advice from Kyle Fuller, though.
And, I mean, who could blame him? Kyle Fuller has never allowed a touchdown to Kelvin Benjamin. Granted, they didn't play last year, Virginia Tech and FSU, but still, it's never happened.
Can we get some narrative street here? Like, just give me some narrative street. I need it. Find me some motivation in this game for Kelvin Benjamin.
Greg Olsen, man. Greg Olsen is the narrative street in this game.
Yeah, dude.
Oh my God, guys. All of the Greg Olsen. He used to play for Chicago. That will make him try at least 25% harder than he'll be trying 125% in this game.
He will. They traded him.
Oh my gosh. If you don't use Greg Olsen this week, you're just going to lose. I'm sorry. But it is as simple as it gets.
What about the Ron Rivera narrative in that game?
Yeah, Panthers defense fired up.
Is that a thing? I'm so bad at narratives.
He's Bears defensive coordinator.
See, I don't like track narrative stuff at all. So I don't know. I do know that the San Francisco game is going to tell us once and for all whether or not Narrative Street exists.
I've started tracking it just for Pete Jennings now. Now I'm just looking for opportunities to troll Pete.
Alex Smith, baby.
Yeah, but Olsen actually, I think Olsen actually is a good play because the Bears linebackers are so bad and their safeties are really bad too. So Chris Conte's a disaster out there. Their linebackers Bostic and Williams don't cover well. Lance is old and he doesn't really cover well anymore. So Olsen and Benjamin are where it's at if you want Carolina exposure.
What was the AP Narrative Street game last year?
Oh, it was that thing with the son that passed away.
Yeah. Did he have a good game?
He had 10 for 60.
It's pretty topic.
Well, that doesn't seem like Narrative Street.
Yeah, and then you had Peyton Manning going back last year against Indy, and he was terrible against Indy. There's for every Steve Smith last week,
but
for every Brett Favre on Monday night.
I was told that they try harder and that they prepare better for games in which there is a narrative reason for them to do better. Kyle Cannon and Peter Jennings told me that Steve Smith tried harder than he ever has before. They said that
Owen Daniels tip was completely planned.
Yeah, Flacco drew that up in the huddle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Steve Smith tried so hard to get to that pass.
Stop.
Wait, why is Cannon telling me that the narrative is not as strong? They traded him. That's like extra saying that's not only saying I don't want you, that's saying I want something else more than you. That's like the difference between getting broken up with and getting broken up with for another dude. Right? Isn't that way worse? I would much rather be cut than traded.
Why? If you get traded, then you're at least valuable.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess so. I don't know. I just think this is all ridiculous, and that trying to factor it into like point projections for
Yeah.
daily fantasy.
I
is
mean, you're talking to
ridiculous.
the wrong people too. I mean, we're all on the same page.
I think the great thing about Steve Smith going off is that everyone will now say that they can't possibly think of another player that fits the bill as well because it worked, and they just want to end the argument. They want to end it right now. Like, nope, nobody else will ever fit the bill as well as Steve Smith, so it works. End of discussion.
Okay, so on official Narrative Street scoring, Kyle Cannon has made a clarification for us as the CEO of Narrative Street. Cut greater than trade in terms of narrative value. I know now. I obviously do not have these factors in any of my projection systems that I have available to me. So that is interesting. Okay, cool. Well, let's talk quarterbacks now. Narrative Street, Alex Smith against his old team, over or under 45 fantasy points. JJ.
Easy over. He's gonna
over?
He's gonna run for 340 yards.
Is that a first half total or a game total?
It's 3 quarters worth.
I would say 3/4 total.
Yeah.
Also, Knapp dug this up, but like Michael Crabtree's middle name is Alex, and someone else's middle name is like there was some crazy middle name thing that that Napster man dug up, and then also it's Niall Davis's and Travis Kelce's birthdays this weekend. So over under 140 points scored in this game. Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Other quarterbacks you guys like. So my guys this week are Russell Wilson, Phil Rivers, Drew Brees, Andrew Luck. Those are sort of my core group of guys. Is there anyone that you think I'm missing, Drew?
I mean, if you're playing primarily on FanDuel and DraftKings, the pricing is so different on the two sites this week that it's hard to make kind of general recommendations and use them across. I think there's a lot of quarterbacks in good matchups, whether you hit on a bunch of them. I think Roethlisberger has a good matchup. I think Peyton Manning has a good matchup. I think there's a lot of different quarterbacks you can use this week. I know on FanDuel, Foles and Cutler are really cheap relative to where they've been in the past. So I think quarterback is one of those positions that I think there's a lot of different ways you can go this week, and it really depends on the site that you're playing on.
Yeah. I agree. I don't even mind Bortles or Eli either. I think both of them are set up for pretty good.
I will never trust Eli Manning in a cash game ever.
No, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. But I mean, the matchup is definitely there for him. The Falcons' defense, like we were talking earlier, they're almost as bad defending the pass as they are the run.
The thing that I'll caution people with Eli, just from a cash game perspective, is that nobody tries to pass on Atlanta in the red zone because you don't have to. So you're counting on long touchdowns because right now the red zone run versus red zone pass play call percentage is 70% run in the red zone against Atlanta. And the Giants, are a team that historically have liked to run in the red zone. This year they've been passing a little bit more in the red zone. But if you don't have to throw the ball in the red zone, now you're looking for big plays. And that's really run after the catch in the McAdoo offense. There's not as many kind of shots down the field. So I think Manning has more risk to him than a lot of people out there that at least I've seen out there that are touting. I think he has more risk to them than other people are suggesting.
Yeah, that's a really solid point. I like Bortles at his price point more than I like Eli, to be honest, just because he's so cheap. He's so cheap. And like I said earlier, I do think that game's going to be higher scoring than what Vegas does. And Bortles is going to be able to pass on the Steelers. And then my favorite value on DraftKings probably Phillip Rivers against the Jets at $7K.
Yeah. I like Bortles. I also think Rivers. The thing with Rivers, this is always something I look for is a defense that's really good against the run, but then also very bad against the pass. That's always a great combination because it just gives the other team so little of an opportunity to do anything else.
But not only that, but the Chargers cannot run the ball this year, and we saw that with Donald Brown last week. Donald Brown, according to Number Fire Metrics, is has a success rate of 20%. So 1 out of 5 rushes is deemed successful. That's absolutely horrible. That's one of the worst that you'll ever see. So I think that's huge, is that they can't run the ball. They're just going to throw it all day.
Yeah, I can vibe with that. I don't know. I like Bortles for tournaments. I think, just because the Steelers' defense sucks, and I don't know. Like Allen Robinson could have a ridiculous game. Also, I mean, I don't want to say it, but like Hearns could too.
The great thing about Bortles in terms of tournaments is like stacking him with a wide receiver is just filling a min slot. Like it's unbelievably cheap as far as quarterback wide receiver stacks go. So you can really load up the rest of your offense. So I do like that. And the other guy, I know JJ and I think Denny had been going back and forth on this one earlier on Twitter as well. But Austin Davis, I think, deserves tournament appreciation as well.
Oh man, Austin Davis is awesome. Austin Davis is going to be a thing.
But you know it's going to be like Kenny Britt and not Brian Quick. Like you know it's going to be someone random that blows up.
No, Brian Quick is a thing.
Oh, I love Brian Quick. I love Austin Davis is the man. He's perfect.
You know who Quick's going to line up against?
Kerry Williams.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian Quick is going to roast him like a pig over an open fire.
I have to find my Kerry Williams stats this year because they're rather hilarious. So he's been thrown at 29 times this year, and he's allowed 266 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's almost 10 yards per target at Kerry Williams.
Like the thing that's, I mean, obviously we all know that the thing that's awesome with Philly is that you're going to run a lot of plays, but I mean, they've given up at least 2 touchdown passes to every quarterback they've played. That includes Chad Henne. That includes Kirk Cousins, and last week they played Cap. But last week was a little bit different just because that game script was so screwed up with all those defensive touchdowns and special team touchdowns. But like Austin Davis is for real this week. Like he's a thing for sure.
That game also got screwed up when Crabtree went out early in that game. Like that was so frustrating because really the rest of the offense has very little in the way of playmakers. So Cap kind of needed some help with his legs and needed the fluky Frank Gore touchdown to pay off his value.
Yeah.
Kitchen, why is Britt a narrative street play? I don't understand.
He had one game in his career that he had in Philadelphia that he scored 3 touchdowns.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, DVP.
I think Lofty hit you with that on the
podcast. He did. That's right. Yeah, he had like 3 touchdowns.
What Dave did not mention, though, what Dave didn't mention is that he was benched the first quarter of that game.
Oh, right. I remember that.
And then came back and had, like, the sickest of games.
That's all you do is just bench him for a quarter.
Now I have Kyle telling me the CEO of Narrative Street is telling us that this does not count. This is not narrative.
It's historical. Like, he knows that it's like his confidence is going to be an all-time high. He knows.
He's the CEO, though, dude. He makes the decisions. Him and Peter Jennings have to, like, the brain trust has to meet and decide.
If you really want Narrative Street to take off, I feel like there needs to be. They
need to be more inclusive so they can claim more things as narrative.
Well, the quiet undertones of Narrative Street that their management hasn't really released is that it only really counts when the matchup's really good too. So like they were really excited about the Russell Wilson Narrative Street this week because it happens to be against the Washington pass defense. Really excited about Steve Smith Narrative Street because it happens to go against a Carolina defense that kind of sucks now. So that's the undertones that management won't let that out.
Kyle also claims the Wilson narrative doesn't exist.
No, he said he's not on the Wilson narrative.
We had it verified by Peter Jennings.
Yeah. He's the COO. Okay. All right. I'm going to read a tweet, and then I'm going to have you guys give me 3 players. Each of you are going to give me 3 players who can potentially win someone $1 million this weekend. This is at Late Round Mongoose, LR Mongoose on Twitter. When my family is starving and we need more birds for dinner, I try harder. # Narrative Street. That's from our friend Late Round Mongoose on Twitter.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do 3 players one by one. I'm gonna go back and forth between you who can win people $1 million. Drew, someone who can win. A player who can win someone $1 million this weekend.
I will start with Blake Bortles.
Bortles Combat. I like it. JJ.
I'm going to go off the cuff a little bit. I'm going to say Lewis Murphy.
Lewis Murphy. Yeah, you should. People don't even know who that is, so you should definitely talk about it.
Right, so with Mike Evans is out, right? Murphy had a team-high 11 targets last week against Pittsburgh. But what I really love about Murphy is that the number 2 wideouts against New Orleans really perform well. And a lot of that has to do with Keenan Lewis, shadowing their number 1. So I think he could take on VJax and leaving Lewis Murphy open. They're obviously going to be coming from behind against the Saints. I think Lewis Murphy's really sneaky. Is that he's free.
All right. I will say Eric Decker, if he plays, no one is going to be on him.
He had a thing today.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. No one's going to be on him because of these reports. Eric Decker can have a 3-touchdown game against anybody.
Davis, no. You got to choose a new
hold
one.
on. I forgot that this was the chalk cash game plays segment of the
You
show.
got to choose a new, you can't choose a guy who's not going to play.
He's going to play because he's a warrior.
Okay, well, that is about the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
The narrative is that he's playing through it because he needs to have better stats than Manny Sanders for the rest of the year to prove the Broncos wrong. Eric Decker's having a nobody believes in me year.
No, I like Eric Decker. I just don't think he plays. So choose someone else from that Jets offense.
Jeremy Curley.
Yeah.
No, Jeremy. Oh my God. The whole point. This is why I'm saying this. Eric Decker's hurt. Not very many people are going to be on him. He's probably going to play anyways because he did the last 2 weeks even though he was hurt. He scored a touchdown last week while he was hurt. San Diego pass defense, not very good outside of Flowers. I'm just saying it has the potential to happen. I'm not saying put Eric Decker in your
Okay,
cash
well I'm
game
choosing Joik Bell then.
Okay, that's oh my God, it's completely different.
Oh, it is different.
Yes, a concussion does not equal a hamstring injury. You can't just play through a concussion.
Well, he is going to.
Unless you play for Michigan.
Unless you play for Michigan.
How do you know his concussion is not going to get better by Sunday? Because he's got a pretty good mental game.
This is one of the stupidest arguments you've ever tried to get me into. This is clearly an off-the-board play. No one's going to be on him because he's hurt. He's going to play because he has the last 2 weeks, and he can do it against anybody.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, you could say that about any doubtful guy, that no one's going to be on them.
Except Eric Decker is actually good.
I
don't know why you're choosing to do this to me.
Hamstring.
The matchup is good.
With a bum hamstring.
No,
what I'm saying is,
stop.
Choose a guy with upside that, is going to play.
I'm ignoring you. Drew, give me your guy.
My next guy is going to be Justin Hunter.
Nice. I can dig that as well.
He's averaging two passes per game over 20 yards thrown at him. So you're getting 2 shots at a deep ball every game. The Browns secondary's been terrible. Even Joe Hayden's been playing poorly according to Pro Football Focus rankings. So at home, Hunter, 2 touchdowns.
There's some real scouting stuff behind that too. Real game watchers say that Hayden is noticeably a step slower. All right, guy number 2, JJ.
I'm gonna go with Malcolm Floyd. I think a lot of people are going to be more on Royal if they're targeting that number 2 against the Jets. So it's kind of the same reasons with the Saints, but Floyd has a lot of upside just given that he's so big that he can score a couple touchdowns. So I'm looking his way.
Yeah. What do you guys think about playing the Arizona wide receivers this week? Just because that's another situation where no one's going to be on them because of Stanton.
I'm not really.
Yeah, I think okay. Your guys' faces say it all.
Especially on DraftKings, I'm kind of high on the Broncos defense. So
yeah, same.
I'm not looking for exposure to counteract my defense selection.
Okay. I'm not even going to give any more guys because Kitchen is going to automatically reappear and just start telling me about why it's a bad play. So, guy number 3, Drew.
So, 2 tight ends. I'll give you a tight end bundle package. Jordan Cameron and Clay Harbor.
Yes, Clay Harbor, baby. I love it.
I can't believe Clay Harbor is a thing this week, but he totally is.
Like that.
One of you guys talk about Clay Harbor because I don't even know that much about him.
He's we talked about him on Living the Stream a little bit. Denny's really high on him this week.
Shocker that Denny just latches on to some backup tight end. It's go.
Yeah,
he's athletic.
That's what I was saying. I was saying on the podcast that he sounds more like a destination than an actual human being. But he's like physically he's actually not that bad. His measurables aren't terrible. Bortles looked his way a lot last week, which is why Denny's a little bit high on him. He played a lot of snaps. The Steelers are exploitable. I mean, it makes sense. They're hard.
Like when he's gotten opportunities in his career, he's been pretty good. Like for his career, he has 79 catches on 118 targets for 6 touchdowns and averaging just under 10 yards a catch. Like he's been fine when he's played well. And younger quarterbacks, there's the narrative that they tend to focus on the tight ends
is
a little bit more.
empirically proven to not be true by like multiple studies.
So there you go. So there's that narrative that you can latch onto. And he caught all 8 of his targets last week. And the Steelers stink at defending tight ends. They stink at defending everything, but.
Thanks, Drew.
Yeah.
What about D'Angelo Williams?
Okay, so my third guy is.
Or your second guy.
Yeah, my second guy is going to be Garrett Graham against the Dallas defense. I know, like, here's the thing. So this Dallas defense that's, like, mythologically good for daily fantasy is actually not. Because their offense is, like, it's the saddest thing ever. Like, watching Tony Romo go out there and manage the game is like watching a fat Superman with his paunch hanging over his utility belt. Like, it's just, like, it saddens me to the deepest part of my soul to watch a neutered version of Tony Romo. And it also saddens me because it makes daily fantasy not as juicy for their opponents. But with these terrible linebackers, like, they can't cover any tight ends. So Garrett Graham is, like, definitively a thing this weekend.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the best streamers out there, I think, too.
And so the commonality between, Garrett Graham, Clay Harbor, and I think Tuttle wrote up Austin Safarian-Jenkins as well in one of your guys' pieces. The common theme there is those are three $3,000 tight ends on DraftKings that are not named Travis Kelce.
Exactly, yeah.
And obviously Kelce is a great play, an awesome play at 3,000. But in a tournament, like Clay Harbor ran 34 pass routes last week. Travis Kelce played 35 snaps. So like you're just getting more potential opportunity with some of these other tight ends. They're not as skilled as Kelce, but it's a way to differentiate yourself in the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Travis Kelce's going to score 45 points.
On 17 pass routes run.
What's his ownership going to be in the big tourney this week?
It's not going to be as much as you think because like there are like a ton of like very big players who are pumping in a ton of entries to this thing that are not like I don't know that I just don't seem to me like would be very concentrated on using Kelce. But it's like 25%.
But I feel like
we had this discussion on DKTV the other night in terms of who would be the highest owned player, and the majority among the 4 of us was Kelce, but my vote was for Rashad Jennings simply because I think since it's a onesie position, the tight end position, it's more likely to find a differentiator there. When you have to go with 2 running backs or maybe 3 if you're using one in the flex, I think a lot more people are just going to lean on that Jennings price. What do you guys?
I feel like if there weren't so many, like it would be running back over wide receiver too, just because there's so many wide receiver options. Period, and the pool is huge. I feel like the number 1 wide receiver is going to be used. It's probably going to be Kelvin.
Guys,
Benjamin.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't tell if you said Kelvin or Calvin.
I thought you said
Kelvin.
Eric.
Yeah, not Calvin. No.
guys, breaking news: Mark Gindy thinks that a 4th-string wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks is going to score a touchdown this week.
Oh, there's another way out there $3,000 tight end, Luke Wilson, y'all.
Yes, Luke O Wilson. He's the man.
Wow.
He's actually a really interesting play this week. Because the defense is terrible against the pass. They can't defend tight ends either. It's not a bad play at all.
It's a lot better than Eric Decker.
No, Eric Decker is actually the worst player in history. No athlete has ever played through a hamstring injury before and done well. And it's absolutely empirically untrue that players score the exact same number of fantasy points per game as when they're listed as questionable on the injury report as when they're not. That's just in no way true, and you couldn't research it if you tried.
Yeah, Miles Austin.
Wait. It's actually the exact opposite.
You're a Cowboys fan. You know how Miles Austin, you know about hamstrings on wide receivers.
So Eric Decker is just chronically injury prone with a hamstring? I was unaware of that.
Well, he tweaks it every week. So
Can't handle hamstring talk right now after that Russell Martin bunt last night.
I don't even want to hear any talk about bunting, dude. I almost watched my team bunt their way out of a wild card game.
I just think it's silly to mention somebody who's not going to play as the guy who's going to win someone $1 million.
I kind of agree. I'm definitely on Kitchen's side here, Davis.
Well, that's because you
I think what Kitchen is saying, Davis, is you have so many possible good contributions that you could come up with in your head that he'd like you to find one of those other great suggestions or recommendations that you have and put that on us.
I don't know. Give me a guy who's like top
maybe a DeAndre Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins is like an obvious play though. Like
he's not going to be high owned.
Good.
You can't. See, here's the thing.
Tell him, Drew. Tell him.
Here's the thing. When you look at the DraftKings pricing, there's like 5 wide receivers that stand out immediately with pricing.
Yeah, and he was one of those to me.
He's not one of the 5 that people are going to reference.
Oh, well then that's my bad. I just thought that everyone was on him.
No, it's gonna be like Kelvin Benjamin.
He has 3 touchdowns through 4 games. Like there are people just looking at
stats.
But look at the way that game.
They don't happen. They don't happen on the red zone channel.
Right.
Oh God. Bortles' girlfriend just made her way to the chat. Lindsay Dukes, dude. Oh my God. If anyone ever wants to know why they should have a RotoViz subscription, it's because the first article from a fantasy football site about Blake Bortles was published there, and there were 0 pictures of Blake Bortles in it. There were several images in the article, though. Goat.
You guys need to live in places where there's good-looking women. That's all I have to say.
Kansas?
I mean, I go to a major university, dude.
Because I mean, she's hot, but like at UCF she's like top quartile. She's not like top decile.
Drew, you went to Dartmouth.
I know how bad it can be. I know how bad it can be. Trust me. I know it very well.
I bet you didn't even have a track and field team there.
Oh no, we have the best cross country runner in all of America.
I bet she was smoking hot.
She's not in Blake Bortles' girlfriend's category. I'll put that in. So here's my wide receiver point. Like people are going to look at Emmanuel Sanders at 5,100. They're going to look at Kelvin Benjamin at 4,800. They're going to look at Brandon Cooks at 4,700. They're going to look at Jeremy Maclin at 5,600. Like those people are going to prioritize those 4 guys before they even get into DeAndre Hopkins, Rube Randall, Allen Robinsons, guys like that.
That's my bad. I didn't know that. I legitimately thought that Hopkins that was just going to be someone that people.
There's a lot to be turned off by any team that's playing against Dallas too. Like they're not going to run as many plays. It's not as favorable of a matchup in general. So just given that, people aren't going to jump on it.
DeAndre Hopkins, if put in single coverage against Morris Claiborne,
game over.
Will actually devour him whole. Like he will just assume Mo Claiborne's cells into his body.
Can we talk about how? Well, actually, we can't because time is
about late round mongoose.
No, well, of course, late round mongoose, but
the worst.
I mean,
I would done for the year.
I would not be surprised to see a rather chalky lineup win the million, with just like maybe one player that's like under 5% owned.
Can I like that? That's the other thing. People are complaining about how the pricing is so soft. The pricing is actually soft enough that there's too many good plays that I think you're right, Dave, that I think it's more likely that a chalkier lineup is probably going to win because you don't really have to go off the board. Like, yes, these guys are all probably going to be greater than like 15% owned, but it's hard for any one of them to be like 40 or 50% owned because there's so many of them.
And the probability of winning first, like not just a million, because yeah, you could be tied with others, but the probability is higher if you go rather chalky, other than like trying to think like, okay, I'm going to fade all these guys with tremendous
draft
matchups.
Cheat is going to win in a lineup where he uses a backup quarterback. He's going to win rostering Brock Osweiler.
Brock Osweiler.
Oh, man.
So good.
So good.
I think that's probably a good place to end the show.
Yep, you you got him, Davis. You got him. We couldn't really see your face when you got him, but you got him.
Guys, my hair's not even that long. It's gonna get so much longer.
No, I'm talking about your 1999 internet connection.
Oh, is my computer running like Eddie Lacy?
Dude,
right
you're
now?
like 8 pixels.
Your computer's buffering, man. Just like Eddie Lacy. Every single run. Buffering.
Man.
Buffering.
Like, if you could do the Numa Numa dance, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Well, I'll try and get it fixed by the show tomorrow. I don't know. I'll yell at somebody.
Just go get a Ethernet cord. We'll pay for it, Davis, just like we paid for the first one that you broke.
I didn't break it, dude. It just broke.
FIFA broke it. Davis didn't break it.
No, FIFA has broken a lot of things in my apartment, including knocking pictures off the wall. But it is not did not break the Ethernet cable.
I have a hard time believing that. I mean, really. Anyways, thanks to JJ Zachariason, a.k.a. the Late Round Mongoose, for joining us. You can catch JJ at numberfire.com. Also, Drew Dinkmeyer from the Daily Fantasy Rundown there at Roto Experts. And then, of course, Davis Maddock, a.k.a. Davis Maddock. So that will do it for the show. Tune in tomorrow. We'll have Evan Silva, 5 p.m. Eastern, with myself, Davis again, and Mr. Tuttle 05. Davis, if your internet's bad with Evan Silva's computer, oh man, that's gonna be. We're just gonna call that like a Flashback Friday show.
No, it'll be like Lost. Like it'll just be like we'll just have like flashbangs, and then we'll just like talk about a new position like every time that time skips around.
All right, guys, that will do it.
Dance Davis.
Davis doesn't even know this song, does he?
No, he wasn't born by the time this came out.
It's like one of the first viral internet videos. Davis, how old were you in 2006?
Well,
I was born in '92, so 14.
Oh my gosh, you're
oh my god.
14. I was a senior-ish in college.
I'm 22 though. Like I'm not that young.
I know. Just imagine a 14-year-old kid right now.
JJ is only like 4 years older than me.
No, it's like more like 5.
You're not like that much older than me though.
Yeah, but
Yeah, Drew.
there's
you're
a
like-
there's still a generational gap. There's always.
There's not a generational gap. There's a maturity gap.
I also had older siblings, so I'm like I still grew up with like Saved by the Bell and stuff, even though it was like I was on the fringe with it. Like that was
yeah,
still
see, and I was the oldest.
right.
Yeah.
You had the college years.
You
Yeah.
no.
you had Bob Golick.
No, dude, I had Boy Meets World.
That was still like
That was past your prime.
It was
No,
way
I
past.
watched it. I
No.
watched the whole thing, dude.
you watched the syndicated versions.
Yeah.
You watched
You
on
had-
TGF.
You had that Hey
Exactly.
Arnold show.
No,
You don't even know what
I also sold
You think
weed
it's
in
a
high school.
restaurant?
You
I
had
also
Hey
sold weed
Arnold
in high school
as
so-
your show, and SpongeBob.
Someone at the Pirate game last night had a Hunter Penslake's Full House or watches Full House sign, which was pretty awesome.
Every day in love, every day.
Are we still broadcasting?
This
Yeah.
is never gonna end.
I'm